Alright, welcome ladies and gentlemen to Project Console. I'm Joy 11 Star, and today we'll be talking about plenty of things that Apple won't let you do.
Yeah. Yeah, this is Mr. Red Fox of
BS Busters.
of BS Busters, and just glad to be on another one of these casts. And being a guest on another one of these casts, it's a highlight of my week. Being on someone else's cast, it's always good. I'll let it ride.
About the port. Very funny.
I mean, I get the joke, but I mean, I think we can all agree that if this is the case, you're getting a cloud version of this game running on the Switch.
Ugh.
You know,
I'm sorry. I had some hard hearing that.
Okay. Worst case scenario, that's what they're doing. Best case scenario, they're doing what they did back in the day for the Wii, where most of the time you'd get a crap Wii port of a AAA game. Like it would be like really bad. Like not only would it be downported, but like they'd strip out features and stuff. But occasionally, like 20% of the time, you would get a downport where they took the lack of hardware.
I was going to say they're going to pull a Mass Effect 3.
No. Where they 20% of the time, like when AAA studios ported games to the Wii, like 80%, like 4 times out of 5, you'd get a bad downport. It would be like features would be stripped out. It wouldn't be very good. But every once out of every 5 times, or twice out of every 10 times, you'd get where they actually utilize the hardware in a good way, like the Wii version of Ghostbusters. Or stuff like that, where the port was actually like really freaking good, and they leaned into the hardware limitations to make a really good game. So best case scenario, they port it to the Switch, and they actually it might not look as good as what's on the PS4 or the PS4 and the PS5 and the Xbox One and the Xbox Series X, but you'll get they'll lean into the limitations and make something really good. I don't think Warner Brothers is going to do that, because I mean, you see what they did with Arkham Knight for PC, and PC was considered the
main platform.
No, PC was considered a throwaway platform for them. The main platform was the PS4 and the Xbox Series, with the Xbox One. It's still broken on PC. They never fixed it. Rocksteady took it over, and they fixed it as much as they could. But at a certain point, Warner Brothers was like, "Yeah, we're not going to pay for this to get fixed." So, they patched it to a certain point. Rocksteady did, and then they just kind of left it alone. So, which is why I say I don't think that this studio working on this massive open world, lots of stuff going on, AAA game is going to be putting a lot of time and effort to port it. Now, I mean, it would make sense business-wise if they focused on the Switch, because the Switch is the largest platform. That would make sense. and ostensibly there's more kids playing Switches, and Harry Potter is geared towards more kids. But that makes sense. you know?
Mm,
Yeah. Yep. Well, I, I would I would make one interjection. Four characters. It all revolves around Harry. Yeah, Harry, Ron, Hermione. Really, Hermione's almost an afterthought for a lot of those books. It's really Harry. So you're right, three characters, but it's Harry, Ron, and Voldemort, and Hermione sometimes.
uh,
Yeah, yeah.
mm, second class citizens.
Almost like black people were treated in certain parts of the world.
Oh yeah.
Well, the issue Kenoshi is that the thing you have to realize is that Harry Potter suffers from the Tolkien school of writing, which is because Tolkien's the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings trilogy have the same issue. Like, okay, you're told that Sauron is evil, but really, if you take a step back and you see how essentially the dwarves are racist, the elves are racist, the humans are racist, uh, like, and how just totally jacked up everything really is when everyone's like, "Oh, these were the good old days." It's like, really, like all of you people are assholes. Even the hobbits are kind of assholes. um, I get where you're coming from, but I mean, Harry Potter is a product of its time. Harry Potter is a product of its time, and it kind of it hit because the first two three books are very simplistic. The first two books are simplistic and easy to grasp, and then J.K. Rowling with each iteration like added more complexity to it, to like the more complexity to the events that were happening in the books, not to the characters or anything like that. More complexity to what was happening in the books, and that in turn captivated the audience at the time. The reason I didn't get into Harry Potter was because when Harry Potter was getting big, like 2 years before Harry Potter was getting big, I was in the adult section of the library reading science fiction and fantasy that was like years, like 20, 30 years ahead of what Harry Potter was in terms of the age grouping. So Like when I read Harry Potter, I was just like, this is kind of simplistic. Yeah, basically, yeah. I was like, everyone's like, oh, this is great. I'm like, it's okay. I mean, if you want to read some adult fantasy that is hardcore as heck, I would say read any of the, or not hardcore, but is, if you want to read fun adult fantasy that takes itself not too seriously but still enjoyable, read anything from Pierce Anthony, his Zanth series. If you want to read a female, if you want to, like, I'll give you a better female author that I feel is head and shoulders above J.K. Rowling. Ursula K. Le Guin's Wizard of Earthsea, her Earthsea series, where the main character Jed, like the main characters of Wizard of Earthsea are people of color. Like the main character's black, and the white people are the minorities, which is amazing. Um, and then you have anything from Patricia C. Reed, also good. But J.K. Rowling is just kind of like I think she's overrated, and yeah. Well, what I heard, they're covering the rebellion, one of the two rebellions of the goblins, um, which I'm cool with. Like I like that idea. Yeah. Everland. I'm not entirely sure. I think Avalanche Studios. Okay, let me look it up. Avalanche Studios. Avalanche Studios. They're a Swedish video game developer. Let's see. Let me look at their gamography. Okay. Here are their game. Here's their gamography. Just Cause, The Hunter, Just Cause 2, Renegade Ops, The Hunter Primal, Rumble City, Mad Max, Just Cause 3, Just Cause 4, Rage 2, and they're working on Contraband. Um, I mean, my issue with Rage 2 is that it has to connect to Bethesda's servers in order to verify your player data, which is kind of weird. So if you play it with a trainer on, it's constantly sending errors, which is just weird. Um, they also did Generation Zero and Second Extinction, which is um, a, a, a co-op. Like they've made a lot. Like their biggest game is Just Cause. Yeah, I mean, I remember playing the first Just Cause, and I was like, yeah, it's basically a GTA clone, but with like you can do more destruction, which I guess is cool. I mean, like they're doing something different. If they actually care about what they're making, I hope it works out for them. So,
Interesting, good. I was gonna say a soft magic.
I mean, most of the magic most yeah, but metachlorians was stupid in Star Wars. Most of the magic in most of the magic in Harry Potter is like the magic is there. It's a vehicle to do something. It's not the magic within it of itself. And that's just a weakness of J.K. Rowling's world building. Like she doesn't care about the magic. The magic is the magic is just a convenient excuse to do things to make stuff happen. It's it's not really explained. But if you want if you want magic, if you like, it would be cool if they explain stuff. But I mean, it depends on how invested the studio is in making this game. I don't think they're all that invested, but that's my personal opinion. Not really. They can go pretty far because they Warner Brothers licensed it out, and because of J.K. Rowling's somewhat controversial things she said and done, like the way the license is situated, like as long as they don't use the original characters J.K. Rowling created, they can make something completely different in this world as long as it doesn't step on the stuff she created. Which means this game could be a breath of fresh air. No, no,
Uh,
I've read Harry Potter fan fiction. It's if you think normal JK if you think normal Harry Potter is some insipid BS, ooh boy, the fan fiction's even worse.
I was gonna say it's as bad as Star Wars.
No, no. The Star Wars stuff, you get a 50-50 shot. Half the time when Star Wars still had their expanded universe stuff, half the time you'd get trash, and the other half you get something good. The Harry Potter stuff, like I've read fan versions of Harry Potter books and movie scripts and stuff like that, and it just like it's more like an 80-20 mix where 80% of it is just trash and 20% of it is decent. The thing is that the, the problem with fan fiction for Harry Potter and the difference between fan fiction for Harry Potter and the expanded universe for Star Wars is that the foundation that most of the EU is based upon is the original trilogy. That's a solid foundation to base your expanded universe upon. Harry Potter already doesn't have the best writing anyway. It just kind of lucked into hitting at the right time with the right marketing to kind of go where it was going to go. So if you don't have a solid foundation, trying to build extra stuff on top of a very shaky foundation just kind of leads to a weaker uh, product. Which is why I'm like, God no, please, no, dear God, no, no, God no. Do I want fan fiction, Harry Potter fan fiction, official? I mean, because like I'll give an example, right? The Mandalorian came out, and the Mandalorian was not done by George Lucas. George Lucas was involved with it, but he wasn't the progenitor of that show. And yet, that show was done by a someone who by John Favreau, who was a fan of Star Wars, but he wanted to do his own thing in the universe. And the Mandalorian is great, right? but I mean, it's basically sanctioned fan fiction. That's what The Mandalorian is. But then you have the opposite end of that spectrum, which is sanctioned fan fiction that's terrible, and that's like the Book of Boba Fett and The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. Like, so sanctioned fan fiction can be great or it can be terrible. So it's just one of those things where it's like
It's a dice roll.
there's too much because the chances of it being terrible are like
You're better off playing slots than reading Harry Potter fanfiction.
I've read Harry Potter fan fiction. It is not good. I've read I've read about 5 Harry Potter like fan fiction type things. Two of which were scripts for like an idea to how to move it beyond the original set of movies. But this was before the Fantastic Beasts new movies started coming out, and they were terrible. Yeah, yeah. It's just like sanctioned fan fiction. Very rarely, like I said, Star Wars is the exception to where the expanded universe stuff, which essentially was fan fiction, the expanded universe stuff is better in some ways than the movies because it can go into details that you can't cover in a 2 hour, 2.5 hour long movie, but you can cover it in expanded universe stuff. But then, like really popular stuff, fan fiction typically isn't really that good, you know. Just I've noticed, but that's my own personal opinion. I could be wrong. You're a wizard, Harry. That's all I gotta say. Good. Well, knock on wood.
Uh,
You know, I think what I suspect is that what they'll probably do is that they probably won't have microtransactions. What they'll probably have is a season pass or an expansion pack or something where you can get DLC to add new stuff.
if anything, yeah, if anything, that'd probably be a lot more tolerable.
Like I'm not against season passes and expansions for games that I like. Or games that give you a good amount of content. My issue is when the game comes out and the game hasn't even hit shelves yet or sat on a shelf longer than a few days. And they're like, yeah, you can buy some extra content. We don't know what that extra content is yet, but you can give us 20, 30, 40 bucks and get extra content. I don't like that.
Hmm.
All right. Okay. Um, yeah, but Harry Potter is just kind of like I was never really that into Harry Potter. Like I said, when Harry Potter came out, I was reading more advanced.
The only thing that interests
Stuff at
me
the
in
time.
Harry Potter, in a sense, would be the 4 classes, and it made me look at them and say, I'm surprised that they got into this class. I mean, to this group, and not that group. Kind of felt like that in some of the stories.
You mean
And
the different schools: Hufflepuff, Gryffindor, Slytherin, and Ravenclaw?
yep,
I mean, I could see that. Um,
because in a way I could say one of them is Protag U, the other is Antagonist High, and the other two are just regular magic schools.
Yeah, but that shows how weak. That shows how weak
The
J.K.
story,
Rowling's writing is because, like, there's no nuance. Because surely not every person who's a member of Slytherin would have been evil, and yet every person who's in Slytherin is an a-hole in Harry Potter. Like, I've never seen someone who was in Slytherin who wasn't a total piece of dookie.
more, yeah, because if anything, I have a feeling that if anything, there's some people that were in the wrong class, that were in the wrong group at
I'm not.
times.
I'm not even
But,
saying in the wrong
you
group.
know,
It's just you can't say, like, it's improper to paint an entire group
yeah, I was
as
going to say that.
being uh evil. Like, you could, like, it doesn't make sense that everybody in Slytherin, or at least that J.K. Rowling writes in House Slytherin, is just a total a-hole. Statistically, that doesn't make sense, and yet J.K. Rowling's lazy writing gives you
Somehow
that.
manages to pull that off.
Yeah, it's not the wrong house. It's just like that's the house you go to in the Sorting Hat, but that doesn't mean everyone who's in House Slytherin should be an a-hole. Just like not everyone who's in House Gryffindor should be, well, they're the protagonists, they're good guys. It's like there's got to be some Gryffindor who are evil, you know?
Yeah, yeah. As I as I said, we got
Lazy writing.
yeah, because basically we got two empty schools of magic, Protag University and Anarchist High.
You know, it's like here's it's like, okay, we've got KKK fraternity. Um, that's Slytherin. It's basically the KKK fraternity. And then you've got, like, you've got Revenge of the Nerds, which is Hufflepuff. You've got AKA Lambda Lambda Lambda. You've got you've got you've got generic fraternity in Ravenclaw. And then you've got, like, the Chads, the shining golden boys, Gryffindor. And it's like, this is just really lazy writing. I mean, that's oh yeah. I mean, they screw up as well, but doesn't it almost always work out for them?
Well, yeah,
I mean, doesn't, like 90% of the time, 9 times out of 10, even when they mess up, Gryffindor is a-okay and they always land on their feet.
mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's, but once again, I mean, like, we're arguing like this is a real thing. This is just because of J.K. Rowling's really bad her writing, just really bad writing. Yeah. Yeah, but it's always easier to hack PC games than it is console games. So this is a console issue. I mean, this is a PC issue. It's one of the flaws of owning stuff on PC. There's always a chance you're going to get shafted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think so. I think that each has its strengths and weaknesses. Like when a game is built for console, any console, whether it be a gaming device, whether it be a handheld gaming device, a console, a hybrid like the Switch is, when it's built for that and it can really takes advantage of the hardware, that's a gaming experience that no one can beat. Hence why, to me, the Metroid Prime trilogy on the Wii is amazing with the Wiimote nunchuck. It's great. It's like the first. It's the best. It's one of the best first person shooters I've ever played. Slash action adventure game, action adventure hybrids. But it was built for that experience. It was built to take advantage of that hardware, which is what makes it so great. Since then, I've also taken the disc and put it in my PC and played it on my PC with a mouse and keyboard, and it's good. It's good. It's not as much fun as the Wiimote and Nunchuck, but it's good. It gets the job done. The thing that people need to understand is that there's trade-offs for everything. Okay, PC gaming is the most versatile form of gaming you'll ever have in terms of control options, like in terms of giving you control over how you want to play your games. PC is where it's at. Like for example, like someone can give me a really bad game for PC, and if there's enough of a modding community behind it, I can make that bad game into something that's enjoyable to play. You cannot do that on console. Like a bad game on console is just bad.
I'm still here.
You were sawing some logs.
Really? I was actually silent.
Okay, Joel. Okay, Joel.
Yep.
But yeah, I think I know what's going on, Joel, and we'll talk about it later. But it's nothing big. But this is just talk about it later. Yeah, Elden Ring. I mean, it's just the thing is that like there's trade offs for everything. You know, there's trade offs for everything. Like it's like okay, like I have an electric vehicle. So when the gas prices went up, I was driving past people who were angry about paying more for gas, and I'm like, dumbass. Because thanks to my home generator and me upgrading my solar panels on my roof and everything, I can basically I basically the sun gives me the energy to power my house and fill up my car, and none of my money's going to any of these stinking petrochemical companies. But Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. But my electric vehicle was like 25% more expensive. Like I got an electric Mustang, and my electric Mustang was like 25 more expensive than if I had gone with a conventional vehicle. But it's like I made. Well, I mean, I traded in my other electric vehicle, so like I didn't have to pay that. But if I had to pay that, I would have had to pay more. And knock on wood, I didn't.
Of
So
course.
it's like there's trade-offs to everything. I don't think it's fair to say that PC gaming or gaming on a computer
Hmm.
is like people did a shine job on it.
Mhm.
It's just there's trade-offs, you know. Hey, here's what I'll say. I would say that PC gaming is really easy to get into. What like you were guaranteed to get a certain experience 3 gens ago. Once you got to the seventh gen, it started to diverge, and consoles began to become more PC like. And when that happened, like it's the reason why you're getting games on these consoles that run like garbage, um, or that have technical issues and stuff like that. I think it's kind of like one of those things where it's like um, five on one hand, half a ten on the other, half a ten on the other. I mean, it's basically like there's it. I mean, like I said, there's issues on both. There's good things. There's pluses and minuses on both sets of products. Um, you know, oh yeah, that is true. That is true. My counter argument to that is the great thing about PC is that you can go in and tinker with the settings and get a way to get your game to run typically, or you can get a made patch that's a workaround. If
Mm,
you have a game
yeah.
that's fundamentally broken on a console, even if it runs, it will never get any better. Case in point,
Uh-uh.
I'm gonna use a third party game on the Switch as an example because it illustrates the point beautifully. Skyrim on the Switch is terrible, and it's never going to get any better. Yeah,
Mhm. Get around it.
Yeah, you can. Like you basically you can modify your games. That is, and like you have like on PC gaming, you have so much control over your gaming experience that you don't have on consoles. The problem with that is that you know if you're a console gamer, you're used to giving just you do it involuntarily, you do it automatically. You give up your control because you're guaranteed a certain experience. The problem is that over time, over the multiple console gens, it's gone in waves. Like some console gens, you've gotten great gameplay experiences on console, and the bugs were hidden or diminished to where you just kind of let it roll, like during the fourth and fifth and sixth gens. But then you get stuff like during the second gen and the seventh gen and the eighth gen, where you're getting games coming out on these consoles where it's like this runs like hot buttered booty cheeks, and it's just not like. And you don't have any control over it. Like, and I say this as someone who the first time I played Skyrim, I played it on the PS3. That it was a miserable experience. It, and everyone was like, "Well, you should have gotten it on the Xbox 360." At the time, I refused to buy a Microsoft console, and even picking that issue up and setting it to the side, it wasn't bug free on the Xbox 360 either. Okay, and that's what you had to deal with. Now on PC, the modding community, even though this should have been the job of Bethesda's software engineers themselves, the developers themselves, were a year ahead of the game, putting down patches to fix these games and make them playable and workarounds and stuff. And if I had a PC that could have run it at the time, I could have downloaded the game, downloaded those patches, and played the game and had a great experience. I could not do that because I had it on the PS3. It got so bad that eventually, after I forced myself to beat that game so that I could say that I beat it, and I returned it. I didn't return it. I traded it in to GameStop and got I spent $60 on the game when it came out, and I got like $50 in trading credit for it. And I didn't feel bad about it. I was like, you know what? F this game. You know. No. Yep. Yeah, that's they didn't develop the cell. That's an urban myth. They did not develop the cell architecture in order to make it more difficult for games to be ported down from ported to other consoles for the PS3. They developed the cell architecture so then they could, because they were hoping to do what Nintendo did with their ARM chipset, where Nintendo basically licensed out their custom designed ARM chipset for ATX. They licensed that out to other stuff, and that was extra money coming into Nintendo. Sony wanted to do the same thing with the cell architecture. It did not work because it was so obtuse and difficult to work with, and that was on them. Didn't work. Didn't work. Didn't work. They stuck a quarter in their behind and played themselves. So that, I mean, that's on. I mean, like I said, there's pluses and minuses on both ends. If you want to have control over your gaming experience, like the most control you can have over your gameplay experience, aside from learning coding and coding your own game, um, PC is the way to go. If you don't mind having a curated gameplay experience where you're trusting that the developers and the console manufacturers are putting what you want forward first, that you play on console. And there's nothing wrong with that. Look, I'm a Nintendo gamer. For years, Nintendo didn't do any wrong by me as a gamer. But as I've matured as a gamer, it's just sometimes there's certain games where I'm like, I'll wait till I can get it on PC where I can basically have higher frame rates and a more stable frame rate. And if the game is a massive open world game, I can download mods to do cool stuff to it that I can't do on console without voiding my warranty on said console. But I agree that some people do a shine job on these things. Yeah, there are a-holes everywhere. Like I don't think it's fair to make this into a PC versus console argument because anyone who was playing on the Xbox 360 and this was a console can remember playing first person shooter dude bro games on the on. I remember going to a guy's house and we would play Call of Duty on his Xbox 360 and getting in matches with other people and being called out our names, being told how they had sex with our moms in very graphic and lewd detail, and that was on a console. So there's a holes on every platform, except I mean, Nintendo's the only one where I've kind of like. I mean, aside from people, tanking matches in Smash Brothers, you don't really get a lot of a holes. So I'll give them that. Yeah, which is why most first-person shooters don't have cross-play with PC. Because even with that, PC still can't in FPSs. I mean, that is true, but a really skilled FPS player against a console player, even if a console player has a modded controller, is still like a highly skilled mouse and keyboard player will still beat a modded controller just because you can't like in a first person shooter you can't beat the precision of a mouse because it's designed to be precise. It's a controller even with the auto aim because every first person shooter that you're playing with a controller, there is an automatic assist script built in when you plug in the controller. An automatic assist script comes in even if you're playing on PC. If you're using a controller, like auto aim kind of comes in to an extent because a controller is not as precise as a mouse and keyboard. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. Yeah, that is not that is not um, that is not that's not a good thing. That's not the only bad news that Microsoft has had, though. About development woes with Icon Games. Remember that Fable 4? Remember that? And how they got the studio that was making Forza, an open world racing game, to make an open world action RPG? It's not going too well. Why wouldn't you give a studio that's good at making RPGs the keys to making an RPG? Like they would have done better tapping Obsidian to make a Fable game. Because at least Obsidian knows how to make RPGs. That makes sense. Yeah, but I mean, at this point, like with the type of problems, like why would you get a studio that has no expertise in that field to make a game they have no expertise in? It's like asking me as a political science and sociology major in college, even though I don't use those degrees in jack squat these days. I run I'm a entrepreneur to say, hey, we need you to make an equation for a quantum equation to send a rocket into space. I have I know nothing about that. Why are you asking me? Well, I mean, a racing game is not the same thing as a racing game is not the same thing as a first person shooter. I mean, as a action RPG. The only thing they have in common is that like they're semi open world. I mean, they might be able to save it, but I I don't think they will. Then it's really screwed because those Tomb Raider reboot games were not very good in my opinion.
Ouch.
I mean, the purpose of doing a reboot is to
Refresh
um
a certain series or IP.
no, you do a reboot in order to keep the spirit of the original game but bring it to a new audience to freshen it up for a new generation. If you play the Tomb Raider reboot and then go back and play like Tomb Raider 20th anniversary, like these games have nothing in common. The Tomb Raider reboot is basically Square Enix's take on Uncharted. That's what it is. It's just Uncharted, except instead of Nathan Drake, who's this a-hole wannabe Indiana Jones, you've got asthmatic Laura Croft with a very slim-bodied, very petite, getting killed in horrific ways, except for her asthma because she's always hyperventilating. So yeah, I'm just like, yeah, no, no. If Crystal Dynamics is involved with this, it's going to be even worse.
Hmm. Not that I can think of on the spot.
It's in deep doo doo. Deep doo doo.
I would say it's in for a long ride.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, a lot of services are going that way. I mean, Microsoft has games where it has to shake hands with an online server in order for you to get access to your single player game. Sony's doing that. Nintendo has that with some of their services where it's like, hey, I paid for this service. It's got to shake hands with an online server before you can get access to the stuff. This is just the way future. This is just the way gaming's been going. I didn't want it to go this way, but this is what happened. I can understand. I mean, could you imagine? Could you imagine if Nintendo did that? Because Gran Turismo is PlayStation's Mario Kart, right? It sells huge almost every console gen. Could you imagine if you paid $60 for Mario Kart? What's the Mario Kart re-release called on the Switch? Yeah, could you imagine if you plopped down $60 for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and you went to go play your game and like for some reason your stuff was down or you couldn't get on the internet and it told you, "Oh, you can't play this game because you're not connected to the internet." You'd be mad. You'd be like, "What the fudge?" And I know that a large component of these games nowadays is the online multiplayer, but there's a single player component too. No. And you know why there's an online component? So that people can't cheat and
And get into the microtransaction store that somebody's going to set up later in the future.
well, no, there already is a microtransaction store. People can't cheat and get that premium currency because basically they set it so that you can only do so many races a day in order to get the currency. So that's why it's connected to an online server, so that you can only race so many races, or they change the algorithm, but you have to be connected. It's happening on their side, so could be. I mean, it's Sony, so they're always looking to jam something up their gamers' pooters. Yeah, because they want that money. Because here's how they get you. You can buy credits, but you can only buy enough credits that only either get you like let's say you buy a car, you want to buy a car that the amount of credits it's worth is like 3,000, but you only can get 2,500 credits per package. So you have to buy $25 worth of credits instead of you just buying $30 worth of credits to get the car you want, because you're always going to be spending more money than you absolutely need. Or they give you a thing where it's like the car is like 30,000 is $30,000, or you can buy 3,000 credits, but you could only get credits and implements of like 50, so you always have some left over to spend more money on other stuff. It's scumming. Yeah, it's scumming. Well, I'm about to play devil's advocate because I know some people are going to get mad at me. Because
Go
I like
on.
playing devil's advocate. Gran Turismo is a very expensive game. It is a racing sim on a console, just like Flight Simulator is a flight sim on a console
And
these
Farm
days.
Simulator, of course.
Yeah, and those simulators, the DLC for simulators are very expensive because they have to license those vehicles,
I was gonna
and that means they
say,
have to pay out a lot of
if you
money to get those vehicles.
if you seen something like what's with the Train Simulator,
Yeah,
oh boy,
yeah,
that number is in the thousands.
it's prohibitively expensive. Yeah, and it's still less expensive than actually physically going into like train collecting, model train collecting, and building the dioramas and all that stuff. It's still cheaper to play the simulator, which is one of the most expensive simulators you can play. So I mean, like in Sony, like Gran Turismo at this point is a prestige series that doesn't make a lot of money because it's so expensive to license all those tracks and all that stuff, and yet they kind of have to put the money into it. So I can understand why, and it's been losing money for years. So they want to not lose as much money making Gran Turismo, and I can understand that. I'm not saying I agree with it because I've never really been into Gran Turismo, but
You get where you're coming from?
yeah, because it is. I mean, like they licensed the Monaco Grand Prix track. They license those drift tracks in Japan. They license all that. They license those car brands, Lotus and Bugatti and Ferrari. They license that. That's a lot of money. And the game has to sell a certain amount. So I can understand. Like this is the one time where I'll say I can understand why they're trying to monetize a lot of stuff because they have to license a lot of stuff because it's a sim. Now, if it was more better business practice would have been to do a Gran Turismo arcade game for like 40 or $50 that had fictionalized cars, and then take that money and use that to fund Gran Turismo with all the licenses. But that makes sense, and Sony doesn't really make sensical decisions. But I'm not gonna go get my pitchfork and be like, "How dare they actually want to make money off of a really expensive game to make?" Or at least, yeah. And if they do, and well, they have to relicense the cars if they do an updated version. If they do a version, but it's a fork off of this version with the same car models, they don't. But if they do with like if you do a game with like a Shelby, a 2023 Shelby, which is this year's model of the Shelby, um, for this year. If they come out with another game 2 years from now and they use the 2004 Shelby, they have to license the 2004 Shelby. They can't, like, you know, and so I mean, look, listen. I know people are up in arms and they want to, they want everyone to be like, "How dare you want to make money on your really expensive game that costs a lot of money to come out with?" Look, uh, you know, that's just the way it is. You know, there's a reason Nintendo doesn't really make sports games anymore because they don't want to pay any license fees. I can understand it. Yeah, and it's only gotten worse because these companies have gotten these the licensing companies have gotten more and more greedy.
Mm-hmm. I'm still here though.
In control. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've said this before. Yeah, but they do it with their laptops as well. I've said this before. Apple, or I didn't say this. I read this. Apple is one of the most anti-consumer companies. Even though their big mantra, the BS that they sell people who buy their products, is that we're very pro-consumer. BS. Okay. Um, Pro-consumer means that you can.
That you're able to look after the customer more than the bottom line, even though that you are basically trying to get them to be loyal to you overall in the end.
No, no. Pro-consumer means that uh, the company makes it as easy as possible for you to interact with and use your product. And also, I think we need to add a caveat to that, an additional thing: repair your product. Um, I think it should be very easy. Like right now, right? Like I was looking at my gaming PC and I was like, my gaming PC only has like a terabyte of a solid state M.2 hard drive in it. I want to add an extra hard drive to it. I can do that. I can literally unscrew the bottom of my gaming laptop and depower it down, put a new hard drive in it, and guess what? Boom! I've added another 1 to 2 terabytes of hard drive space to it. You cannot do that. Like, if you do that on an Apple product, it's like
it's going to void the warranty and allow you to risk your system to be screwed over, right?
Yeah, if you take and Apple will lie to their people who buy their products. Well, it's about security. First of all, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret, okay? Professionals who are in the field, like people who work for the government, or or like people who work in labs and stuff like that, they are buying products that are not branded. Like you can't, like you don't even know what brand they are. They're specialty made by different corporations. Okay, I guarantee you, it's not some Apple shit.
AKA generics versus brand name, right?
You want to know who buy? You want to know why Apple makes so much money? Wannabe professionals who want to feel like they're getting that level of security buy Apple because of the brand name. Yep. Yeah. Well, I've got on the PC build I've been doing, I've got 4 M.2 slots on the motherboard. And the only reason I haven't gotten any M.2 slots is because I'm waiting for the 4 TB to come on the market. Once we get the 4 TB drives, I'm getting those. I get 4 of those, plug them suckers in there, and I have 16 very fast uh, solid state drives. And I might add two standard normal, large form SSDs in there too. And then, I've got maybe 20 terabytes right there. But my point being is this. If you spend, like why is it that there is a company that's allowed to charge exorbitant prices for their products that you have no control over? I mean, you've heard me talk lots of trash about Nintendo, but I can open up my Switch and put another memory card in there when I want to expand the memory. It's like, remember back in the day when if you wanted to expand the memory of your phone, you could open it up and put a new memory card in there? There are phones now that are coming out that they're charging people $1,000 or more for, where you can't even do that anymore. You can't even put in a new SIM card. You can't put in a dual SIM card. You can't put in new memory. It's like, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable.
Ah,
Can you imagine buying a car where you can't open up the trunk and put
that
in
would be a
new
nightmare.
windshield wiper fluid? If Apple made cars, this is the Apple iCar, and you wanna put gas into it? Oh, you have to go to an approved gas station to put gas into your Apple iCar. Oh, you want to change the windshield wiper fluid? You have to go to an approved vendor in order to get windshield wiper fluid and put it into your car. It's like, let me put it this way. I hate Apple. I hate the company. When Steve Jobs was CEO, I hated it then. I hate it now. I hate Apple. I like I hate Apple. I hate that company.
Uh-huh.
And I'm glad that Bill Gates stole the original Windows when Windows went to a full GUI. I'm glad he stole all of his ideas from Mac, and I'm glad Windows overtook Mac OS. I'm glad because you don't deserve it. There you go. Yeah, I mean, you're talking to a guy who hates Apple. Like, I hate Apple. Like, when I hear people, they're like, yeah, I've got an Apple. I game on a Mac. Why? I mean, Mac, like, okay, if you have something that's built if you want a PC that's built primarily for a specific purpose, Mac is great. But why would you want a computer that only can do one or two things really well? That kind of defeats the purpose of having a computer. My computer's really good at rendering video. Why are you like okay? Does it do? Is it good for anything else? No, it just renders video. Can you game on it? No. Is it really? Is the word is the word processing suite software any on par or better than Microsoft Office? No. No. Okay. Well, I mean, so basically, you spent 5 to 10 grand on a device that just renders video. Let me go get my stamp that says "dumbass" and put it on your forehead. Um, here's all I'm gonna say. If you're someone who's rendering video and you don't want to buy a Mac and spend an exorbitant amount of money on some BS, I'm gonna let you in a little secret. Go buy some. If you have a PC board that came out in the last 5 to 6 years, go get some DDR4 or 5 and get like 64 gigs. Because higher RAM will help you render videos. Like having more RAM will help you render videos, and it'll be cheaper, even with how the prices of RAM have gone up. It will be cheaper than buying any Mac laptop or desktop. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Um, don't don't give Apple a whole bunch of money so that they can basically tell you what to do with something that you spent like $10,000. That's the price of a decent used car. I mean, come on, man. It's like, I mean, these Apple fanboys just get on my nerves with this.
I guess so.
Yep. Yep. Because all of Apple's peripherals are prohibitive. Like they are prohibitively more expensive than if you got the PC equivalent. Like if you get like a Mac, because I remember at one point Mac had like a certain like they had a proprietary connection for their HD. So if you so for their HD thing for a little bit. So if you had a Mac laptop and you like let's say you had a presentation and you wanted to put it into a projector machine or so that people could watch it on the projecting screen, you had to get a proprietary ribbon, a proprietary connection cable, or a converter. Converters were expensive; they were like $70 or $80, and the ribbon was like 60 or 50. That same thing you could have bought for a PC laptop for like $20.
Huh.
Same functionality. I mean, Apple is one of the biggest con companies, and I mean, really, the Apple fanboys just bending over and spreading their cheeks and be like, "Yeah, go ahead, do it, yeah, go ahead." I'm enjoying getting screwed over by this company that is worth billions.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, Apple just basically just kind of.
Screw the
I mean,
pooch.
I'm just not surprised because Apple's been doing this for years. Like even back in the day where you would buy Apple products, like Apple would do that. Apple would sell a product and it would be prohibitive. Like they pulled what IBM used to do with their PCs. Like IBM, if you wanted to buy an IBM PC back in the day, it would be like $1,200. And then if you wanted anything else from anyone else, it'd be like an Apple II, it'd be like $899. If you got a PC clone, it'd be like $699, $799. But IBM would be like 1,200. And it's like, come on, man. It's like, what? Why would you do this? And that's why IBM went the way of the dodo. I mean, they didn't go out of business. It's just they aren't. Yeah, they do more infrastructure stuff these days. But IBM used to be a juggernaut, and just they got greedy. They stopped putting in real money behind stuff, and it just fell apart. And I don't feel sorry for them. Yep. Yep. I think Compaq was bought by Dell, wasn't it? I remember those Dell commercials. Dude, get a Dell. I got nothing. Just don't buy Apple products if you can avoid it. If you have $5,000 to burn to get a computer, my advice would be to get a 2.5 get a $2,500 PC, and then buy $2,500 worth of upgrades that you can have either installed by someone you trust or install yourself, and you'll have something that's better than Apple could ever sell you. All right. This was Red Fox on a Pride of BS Busters, and I um I enjoyed this cast. It was great. We talked more. We got more into the nitty gritty on certain granulars like PC gaming, which is relatively niche, but it's a part of gaming. I was allowed to break my foot off in Apple's rear end, which I feel okay with because they are a scam bait company. Their products are overrated. Um, I stand by that statement, and they're really expensive for no reason. And I stand by that. Like, I mean, I can understand if you're like the only like because, and I know some people are gonna say, well, professionals use Apple products. No, they don't. If you go to a tech institute, like places where people are working with sensitive information or high tech stuff, they are using proprietary stuff that's not made by Apple. Okay, so don't believe that Apple has fooled you guys on one of the greatest marketing schemes like diamonds are rare. They aren't. They're really common. Yeah.